Welcome back to Newslink. Now we continue our focus on education this morning, and we're asking, is there a link between provinces with poor school attendances having the highest crime rates? That's the question we're exploring this morning with our next guest. Coincidentally, though, figures for the 2023 year found that cities in provinces with the poorest school attendance are in the continent's top 5 for crime. Let's now explore these issues with educational psychologist Fred Schouwink. Joins me now for this conversation. Fred, thank you so much for your time, and a very warm good morning to you. I mean, that's precisely the question, right? Do we find a link in these areas or even provinces where we see poor school attendance or even a high dropout rate linked to the high crime rates there?
So, Camilla, there have actually been several studies done globally that suggest that there certainly is a correlation between a lack of education and increased crime rates. And in South Africa, the context is unique, but the pattern is similar. So often in these provinces, we see that when there is a high dropout rate, there's also often family instability, a lack of community resources, and lack of employment opportunities that further drive up the crime rate. So certainly without schooling, finding work becomes much harder in these provinces, leading youth often to some illegal activities.
Yeah, and that begs the question there, because one wonders what actually happens to a child and their life when they drop out of school.
So I think there are several factors that we need to consider. Dropping out of school often removes the structure and routine that school provides, which can lead often to the lack of purpose for young people. And I think also they become very socially alienated because often these are students that are labeled as failures, which result in a diminished self-worth. And so without that full schooling, as I've mentioned, opportunities for further education become notably limited, and they often grapple with unemployment or are confined to low-paying jobs. And I think that sets them up then for financial stress, and that increases the risk for substance abuse, for example, and other mental health disorders. We also think about the high teen pregnancy rate. Certainly for girls that drop out, there's a much higher likelihood of becoming young mothers, which presents additional stresses, both economically and socially. I mean, if you look at the latest statistics between April of 2021 and March of last year, girls aged 10 to 19 had almost 90,000 pregnancies. So there are a number of factors that can set the child up for a lot of psychological and financial stresses.
Absolutely. We have to have this conversation by involving parents, caregivers, and educators. I'm sure you would agree, Fred, with me. And I just wonder what behavioral patterns can they then, almost pick up from a child who is either, having a very poor attendance in school, has dropped out, or even involved in crime?
So I think the most obvious sign would be that frequent truancy or unexplained absences from school and academic performance often dropping. And I think parents and teachers need to watch out for changes in the peer group, especially if there are new friends that are known for criminal or disruptive behavior. Obviously, also looking out for signs of substance abuse, defiance, aggression, unusual secrecy. That can often be a sign that the child is involved in crime. And then also looking, for example, at unexplained possessions or money, which may suggest that they're in fact involved in illicit activities.
Yeah, I just wonder while we're having this conversation, Fred, I mean, what informs a child to actually make a decision to either not attend school or to even drop out?
So, I think for me, certainly one of the primary factors is a lack of support and parental involvement. Also, a lot of learners finding school very difficult, feeling that school is not relevant, or having experienced, past academic failures. I'm also thinking about peer pressure. Often those who leave school associate with other learners that have also dropped out, and that can set them up then also for some difficulties. I think the environment obviously plays a big role. So living in a violent or unstable environment where education is not prioritized can also be a factor. And then psychologically, just learners might often feel that education and the education system doesn't cater to their aspiration or future goals. And this leads them then to looking for alternatives outside of the school context.
Right. Yeah, and also when we talk about criminal activity, Fred, what does the exposure to criminal activity, to crime, do to a child's psyche?
I mean, I think they might begin to see criminal activities as normal, and justifiable. And so over time, they actually become desensitized to violence or illegal activities. And this then leads them to have a difficulty distinguishing between right and wrong. I'm also thinking about a lot of youth that are exposed to criminal activities, that they are exposed to violence, which in turn can then lead to things like PTSD and other mental health concerns. And just overall, it stunts their social development and their cognitive development.
Yeah, and just before I let you go, Fred, we have to obviously have this conversation and possibly provide some interventions here or even solutions for caregivers, parents and teachers alike. And I suppose this will be a double question where my question is, what then can parents do, caregivers and teachers? What can they do to bring back those children back into the classroom and further, instill an appreciation for school while monitoring their attendance quite adequately?
Exactly that I think parents and teachers need to talk openly about the importance of education and understanding the challenges that their child is facing at school and to get the support for that. Essential for all school going children is just to ensure that consistent routine, setting aside time for homework, ensuring that their child gets enough rest, and really monitoring their school attendance. Go to school parent meetings and really be involved in the schooling environment and being involved in their academic progress.
Well, I appreciate this conversation and thank you for making time to speak to us about it, Fred. Thank you so much for your time. Educational psychologist Fred Schouwink talking to us more about that link that we see, that correlation between the high dropout rate, the poor school attendance being linked to high crime rates in specific province within the country. But I suppose this will take the community, parents, caregivers, teachers alike, the department to come together to ensure that young children are not in a bad route of crime due to dropping out of school.